As Lucas said, I am a PhD student at CEU Vienna, and I'm going to talk. I'm going to be talking about the syntactic complexity of proper names. So in the next, 45 minutes or so, I'll argue for two theses. First, I'll argue that many proper names in English and in other languages, they, uh, they have a complex internal syntax. Some examples from English include the proper name, the United States, Midsummer Night's Dream, etc. And so I'll argue that uh, these proper names they can be syntactically analyzed into a determiner component and what I'm going to be calling a proper nominal component. Apart from this, I'll also argue that these syntactically complex names, they have an important semantic consequence. Uh, they make the million view of names seem less attractive than the predicate view of names. And I'll give a brief summary of the million view and predicate view of names at relevant points in the presentation. Before, so roughly the presentation is structured in two parts. Each part argues for one of these two theses. Before I begin with the first part, let me clarify some terminology. I'll use the term proper name for an expression only if it performs the semantic function of a singular term, which is to say that if it is used to refer to or denote an object. So to take an example, let's take the example of this sentence. When Donald Trump became the 45th president of the United States, every Donald Trump felt special. So the first occurrence of Donald Trump in this sentence is an occurrence of a proper name because it is used here to refer to a specific individual. But the second occurrence is not because it does not denote anyone. It's more it would be more proper to say that it stands for some uh, predicate someone called Donald Trump. Uh, Also, the nominal of a definite noun phrase is generally defined as the complement of the determiner in the definite noun phrase. So, for example, in the sentence considered earlier, uh, the definite description, the 45th president of the United States, has the definite article as its determiner, and its complement is is the expression in red. So this expression in red is the nominal of this definite description, and I'm going to call proper nominal. I'm going to call the nominal of proper names the proper nominal. So in the sentence considered earlier, the first occurrence of Donald Trump is a proper name, which has the very same expression as its proper nominal as well. Uh, However, the second occurrence of Donald Trump is not an occurrence of proper name, but it's just a proper nominal. So proper nominal is the name of the expression which constitutes the nominal of a proper name. Uh, and one final point, I am going to use the word definite noun phrase to include not just definite descriptions, but also proper names, pronouns, demonstratives, etc. I think this is uh, not idiosyncratic. It's now very much the norm in linguistics. So I begin with the first part of my presentation now. I'm going to argue in this part that many proper names in English and other languages are syntactically complex. And my target here in this part is the million view of names, according to which names are both syntactically simple as well as semantically simple. So according to the million view, names are syntactically simple because even though many names contain multiple words, for example, the name of the present US President, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., even though many names contain multiple words, this view treats proper names as a single syntactic unit, a simple orthographic or phonetic tag, if you will. And this view takes names to be semantically simple as well, because according to this view, the only linguistic function of a proper name is to stand for its referent. So uh, the linguistic function is exhausted by them standing for their referent. This is this is the view of names according to this is how names behave according to the million view. Now, the million view stands in stark contrast with the fact that many definite noun phrases of English perform the linguistic function of proper names, yet contain words which can naturally be thought of as determiners. Consider, for example, these sentences, the proper names in these sentences. The Hershey company is registered in the United States. This sentence contains two proper names, both beginning with THE, the Hershey company, and another name is the United States. Similarly, consider the proper name, the expression "a clockwork orange" in the second sentence, which seems like a proper name, and yet contains that what seems to be the determiner so without already assuming that these are proper names or that they are syntactically complex, let's just call them complex names, or CPNs in short. Uh, Now, in discussions about CPNs, complex names, they are either assimilated into proper names or treated as syntactically simple. For example, Marcus in her 1961 paper treats them as syntactically simple, or they are thought to be hybrid expressions which resist inclusion into the category of proper names. And Rayburn makes a point to that effect in a 2015 paper. But I will argue that neither of these two approaches is correct. Complex names are exactly what they seem. They are syntactically complex proper names. And so I'll make two arguments in the rest of this section. First of all, I'll argue that complex names must not be considered syntactically simple. And I'll also argue that there are good reasons to exclude them. There are good reasons to include them in the class of proper names. So I begin my argument against the view that these complex names are syntactically simple. Now, one option not available to the million is to say that the occurrence of what seems to be the determiner in complex names is a merely orthographic accident in the sense of Quine. So Quine gives the example of the appearance of CAT in cattle as an example of a orthographic accident. So it's merely an accident of orthography that the first three letters of cattle are also constituents of an otherwise meaningful word in the English language. However, though it is true that these orthography accidents do occur, for example, I think the occurrence of THE in Theodore is an orthographic accident. The occurrence of THE in the United States is the occurrence of a determiner. And one reason to believe this is to consider the fact that the nominals of the determiner in the nominal of the determiner in the United States, the complement of THE, does make otherwise meaningful appearances in sentences. For example, the first sentence, if the United Kingdom were to adopt the name of the United States, then there would be two United States, one of them ruled by a queen. So the nominal of the United States, the proper name the United States, can appear with other determiners as well. However, the complement of, so as to speak, THE in Theodore cannot make a meaningful appearance in sentences. Someone who is familiar with the proper name the United States would understand the first sentence in italics on the slide, but someone who's familiar with the name Theodore will not understand the second sentence. Another reason uh, uh, to uh, believe that complex names are syntactically complex is because the articles in these names can be replaced by other determiners, and such replacement is rather systematic. So let us look at these two sentences. If another country were named the United States, then there would be two United States. If another book were named A Clockwork Orange, then there would be two Clockwork Orange. Now, there is a pattern in these sentences which can be captured as through this schema, and other such schemas can also be uh, constructed. These schemas show how the determiners in proper names can be systematically replaced by other determiners. The determiners in CPNs can be systematically replaced by other determiners. So in the earlier two sentences, the determiner got replaced by the determiner two. So this systematic and predictable behavior of articles, determiners within CPNs would be mysterious on the assumption that they are mere orthographic accidents. Uh, uh, it would not be possible to explain this behavior on the assumption that these determiners are syntactically inert components of a syntactically simple proper name. Uh, and these complex names are not an idiosyncratic feature of English. Proper names in Greek and other dialects of German always contain a determiner, and some dialects of German always contain a determiner which is orthographically identical to the definite article. And Ora Matushansky has drawn attention to other languages like Icelandic, Norwegian, Swedish, Catalan, uh, and uh, Tagalog, Albanian, some dialects of Italian, in which proper names obligatorily contain a pre-proprial article. It's a special article which attaches only with names, which is different from the definite article. Uh, Another example which would be relevant for my argument later is from Northern Norwegian, where the pre-proprial article is orthographically similar to the third person pronoun in Northern Norwegian. So uh, this concludes my argument for why proper names should be complex names should be thought of as syntactically complex. Now I'm going to argue that these complex names must be thought of as proper names. So I'm going to argue against an objection uh, that that uh, that was raised by Rayburn, uh, and Rayburn argues that there is a problem in the assimilation of complex names into proper names. So I think a good point of beginning here could be to uh, a good point to begin would be by observing that these complex names and proper names have the same semantic behavior. These complex names like the United States, A Clockwork Orange, uh, uh, and so on, they generally take broad scope. They are rigid and so on. They show the same behavior that proper names behave. Uh, but Rayburn argues that Rayburn raised an objection against the assimilation of these complex names which contain the, and he calls them capitalized descriptions into proper names. And Rayburn's objection is based on two assumptions. First of all, Rayburn assumes that the in capitalized descriptions is the definite article. And secondly, Rayburn assumes that the words that constitute the nominal of a capitalized description are distinct syntactic units. I'll take an example to explain this in the next slide. So uh, consider the expression the round table. Uh, so according to Rayburn's first assumption is that the uh, purported determiner the here is the definite article, and secondly, the nominal round table has two syntactic constituents. Now, Rayburn argues that given these two assumptions and the principle of compositionality, the meaning of a capitalized description, like the meaning of a definite description, must be derivable from its component parts. So uh, basically, the objection is that the capitalized description, the round table, and the definite description, the round table, must be syntactically alike. But we know that definite descriptions are different from proper names, and capitalized descriptions are thought to be proper names. That's what I want to argue here, and hence capitalized descriptions cannot be proper names. So that's the objection. Uh, but both of Rayburn's assumptions can be questioned, and I will be questioning them. First, Rayburn unquestioningly assumes that the in capitalized descriptions is the definite article. However, we have good reasons to believe that the determiners which appear within complex names do not have their usual semantic profile when they appear within proper names. And one example is A Clockwork Orange. So the presence of determiners like which is also the indefinite article in English, within complex name, within the complex name, A Clockwork Orange shows that the determiner which occurs within proper names must have a semantics different from the indefinite article of English. Otherwise, A Clockwork Orange would have to be an indefinite NP, which it clearly is not. So this must have different semantics from the indefinite article of English. Uh, oops. Okay. Secondly, Rayburn assumes that words that constitute a proper nominal are syntactically distinct units, but I will argue that proper nominals represent a lexeme. They are a single syntactic unit, single syntactic and semantic unit. So Uh, before uh, moving forward, let me just define a lexeme very quickly. A linguistic form, a bit of speech or writing, represents a lexeme if that form is conventionally associated with a non-compositional meaning. So language is a lexeme because its constituents, however we break it, uh, can't compositionally determine the meaning of language. If you take LAN and GUAGE, they are themselves meaningless, so they can't combine together to compositionally determine the meaning of language. Greenhouse does have two meaningful components, green and house, but the meaning of greenhouse is not determined from these two components. So idioms and words like greenhouse are lexemes as well. They their meaning is not compositionally determined from the meaning of their constituents. Red rose, however, is not a lexeme because the meaning of red rose, a red colored rose, is determined from the meaning of its constituents. And I contend that a proper nominal represents a lexeme because either the component parts of proper nominal do not have a meaning, or if they do, the meaning of a proper nominal is unrelated to the meaning derived from its parts. It's easy to see it with an example. So consider these two names, Tim and Goldman. Uh, in these two sentences, Tim likes cats more than dogs, and Goldman is kind-hearted and helpful. So while no component of Tim is associated with a conventional lexical meaning, uh, well, Tim can only be resolved in so many ways: T and IM, TI and M, and all these component parts are meaningless. So the meaning of Tim, whatever in whatever sense names can be said to have meaning, cannot be said to be derived from the meaning of its component parts. Goldman, however, is a bit different. Goldman can be resolved into gold and man, but it's easy to see how the meaning of Goldman must be unrelated to its constituent parts. The meaning of Goldman need not have anything to do with gold uh, or with man. So proper nominals are lexemes. Their meaning, in whatever sense they can be said to have meaning, is not derived from its component part. Another consideration that speaks in favor of proper nominals representing lexemes is that proper nominals can occur in different inflectional forms. So, uh, however complex a proper nominal is, let's take the example of Delia graphara. So when it gets inflected into its plural form, it just takes the suffix s at the end. So you say something like Delia grapharas. So its internal complexity is irrelevant. The whole uh, proper nominal acts as a single unit when it is inflected. Also, it can serve as a base lexeme in a word formation process. So word formation processes are thought to take lexemes as their inputs, and they proper nominals can serve as base lexemes. So uh, so the second objection raised by Rayburn can now be addressed in the following manner. So the round table, the expression round table can either be a definite description, in which case it should be resolved, it should be taken to uh, uh, be composed of three syntactic constituents. First of all, the definite article, the adjective round, and the common term table. Uh, or it could be thought to be a capitalized description, in which case it should be resolved into the determiner the, which need not be the definite article of English, and the proper nominal round table. And this proper nominal has its own meaning, which is not derived from the meaning of its constituents. And so um, we can maintain a principled distinction between definite descriptions and capitalized descriptions by taking note of the fact that proper nominals are lexemes. Uh, I conclude my argument here. So I have argued that complex names are therefore syntactically complex proper names. And now I wish to propose a model of syntactic, a way to model the syntactic complexity of proper names in general. So given that complex names are syntactically complex, a general model of the syntax of proper names can be stated as follows. So proper names are syntactically composed of a determiner and a proper nominal, such that the determiner is sometimes but not always overtly present. So all proper names can be thought to contain a determiner and a proper nominal, but the determiner is not always overtly present. And this uh, above schema merely captures the common linguistic datum that proper names sometimes contain an overt determiner. So this is theory neutral in the sense that any theory, any semantic theory of names or any theory of names must have an explanation for uh, must tell us about the syntactic behavior of a determiner, which is often seen as being part of a proper name. Uh, this proposed model has many benefits. One benefit is that by using proper name to stand for an entire definite noun phrase and using proper nominal to stand for its nominal component, it helps disambiguate the natural language term name, which can stand for either a proper name or a proper nominal. And so the slogan of the predicate view of names, I'll talk about predicate view of names in a little while, that names are common nouns is more precisely stated as proper nominals are common nouns. And the Millian thesis that names are directly referential is more precisely stated as proper names are directly referential. Another benefit of adopting this model of syntactic complexity is that uh, it helps us better understand the disagreements between various semantic theories. So glossing the difference between proper names and proper nominals by using the ambiguous word names exaggerates the extent and nature of disagreement between semantic theories of names. So for instance, Millianism is essentially a thesis concerning how proper names refer. So all minions believe that proper names are directly referential. They refer directly without the mediation of uh, descriptions. But the predicate view of names is not a theory of reference. It is primarily a view about the linguistic nature of proper nominals. It holds that proper nominals are common terms, and the question of how proper names refer is peripheral to their concern. The biggest benefit of adopting this model of syntactic complexity, however, is that by bringing into relief a range of previously unacknowledged, ignored linguistic data, it makes available new parameters for evaluating various semantic theories of names. So one syntactic issue highlighted by this model is the question of the syntactic category of proper nominals. So we are entitled to ask if proper names can have a determiner component and a proper nominal component. Then what syntactic category do proper nominals belong? So an examination of what a theory of name has to say about this question, how a theory of name answers this question, provides us a good measure of the robustness of that theory in explaining the linguistic data. Uh, the benefit that I want to explore in the next section, however, uh, is more semantic in nature. And I now begin the second part in which I am going to discuss the semantic implications of syntactically complex names. If the proper names are syntactically complex, then uh, how does it bear upon how does the syntactic complexity of proper names bear upon the semantics of names? So uh, I'll argue that complex names bring to light a semantic deficiency of the Millian view, which becomes evident when we raise the question of the semantic treatment of the overt determiner in proper names. So in this section, I'll first discuss a criticism that has been leveled against the predicate view and then argue that the Millian view is vulnerable to the very same criticism. And with respect to this criticism, then the Millian view fares no better than the predicate view. However, the predicate view has other advantages over the Millian view. Very briefly, predicate view is the predicate view of names is a view which according to which names are syntactically common count nouns. Just like there can be many computers or mobile phones, there can be many Tims or Pauls or Michaels, and they are semantically predicate. So on the predicate view, the proper nominal n has roughly the semantic value of of individual named n. There can be some disagreement about what exactly is the meaning of this predicate. Uh, Now, because common count nouns cannot generally be felicitously used in subject position as singular terms, but names can, the predicativists assume that proper names where proper nominal is not accompanied by a determiner, determiner is nevertheless covertly present. So, for example, in the sentence that we considered earlier, uh, the first occurrence of Donald Trump is the occurrence of a proper name, but it does not have an over determiner. So, according to predicativists, a determiner element is covertly present in such instances. Uh, and a consideration that speaks for the predicate view is that it proposes a uniform semantics for proper nominals in their occurrences within proper names and in their predicative occurrences. So I talked earlier about how the first occurrence of the expression Donald Trump is the occurrence of proper name, but the second occurrence is not. But both of these occurrences of Donald Trump, the expression Donald Trump, are occurrences of proper nominal, and the predicate view uh, uh, has the advantage that the proper nominal in both these instances can be thought as having the same semantic value. Now, there is no unanimity amongst the holders of the predicate view regarding what the covert determiner is. So one group, the predicativists, they take it to be the definite article the in English, and another group, that predicativists, they take the determiner to be the indexical that. And both these proposals, however, have been subjected to the same kind of criticism. The semantic profile and the criticism is that the semantic profile of the determiner that and the definite article the is different in their usual occurrences and when, as the predicativists claim, they occur within proper names. So the criticism is basically that predicativism uh, uh, is also committed to some sort of ambiguity of the determiner that they think constitute a proper name. So just to quickly go over two of these criticisms against the predicativism, Shobie and Lee have recently argued that unlike proper names, incomplete descriptions are neither generally rigid nor do they always take broad scope. So a there's a difference in the behavior of the definite article the when according to the predicativist it appears within proper names and when it appears without. And so proper names and incomplete descriptions cannot be considered identical without quote. It has also been argued, Shobi has also argued that identifying proper names with referential definite descriptions is essentially stipulative, because if the determiner in proper name is the definite article, then there must be an explanation for why this why proper names cannot have an attributive use. Uh, and against that predicativism, Jeffrey King has argued that while can act as a semantic profile, one and upper. So the sentence Mark is tall, but this one isn't, is infelicitous, it is marked. So that shows that uh, the determiner that, if it is present within proper names, must be semantically different from uh, otherwise from the appearance of that in sentences otherwise. So an option which is not thought to be available to the predicativist is to propose that determiners the and that are ambiguous between their usual occurrences in their covert occurrence, in their usual occurrences and in their occurrences within proper names. And this is because the theoretical advantage of predicate view is lost if a uniform semantics of names must come at a cost of non-uniform semantics of the definite article or the demonstrative that. So one of the advantages of predicativism is that we get a uniform semantics for the proper nominal, but that should not come at the cost of a non-uniform semantics of the determiner that, according to predicativists, is part of a proper name. So uh, now I'm going to argue that the ambiguity of the determiner, however, does not seem as bad for the predicate view if, to explain the presence of determiners in CPN, the million view, or for that matter, any other view of names, must also assume that determiners are semantically ambiguous between their usual occurrences and in their occurrences within proper names. And um, uh, in the case of millionism, it it can be seen that the determiner in complex names must have semantics different from their usual occurrences. Millions are committed to the thesis that names are proper nouns, and the simplest million explanation to the determiner, which is often present in complex names, would be to treat it as an expletive, a semantically vacuous expression that makes no contribution to the meaning of a proper name. However, in fact, this has been the option of choice for some sympathizers of million view. Um, However, to say that the determiner component of a complex proper name is expletive amounts to admitting that determiners like or the of English are ambiguous in their occurrences within different noun phrases. Uh, Further, it can be argued that a unified semantics for determiners in their usual occurrences and their occurrences within proper names uh, is not plausible on any semantic account. This is because a range of determiners with very different semantic profile in their usual occurrences can appear within proper names. Some examples include the indefinite article a, the definite article the, both of which can appear within proper names, complex proper names, to say that there can be unified uh, semantics of determiners in their usual occurrences and in their occurrences within proper names is to say that the definite article in English and indefinite article in English have the same semantics. And this, whatever this common semantics is, should also be the semantic value of, let's say, the Norwegian third person pronoun, which is quite implausible. And so, with respect to proposing a uniform semantics for determiners, no semantic view fares better than the predicate view. However, with respect to proposing a uniform semantics for proper nominals, the predicate view still scores over millionism. And this provides us for some reasons for one reason for favoring the predicate view over the million view of names. Uh, I sum up. I have argued that many proper names have a complex internal syntax. They contain a determiner and a nominal component. Uh, the syntactic complexity of names raises several questions for a semantic theory of names, and how well a theory of name fares in explaining the semantic and syntactic properties of the constituents of proper names can serve as a new parameter for evaluating between different theories of names. And I have also argued that the possibilities that the million view provides for explaining the semantics of the determiner in proper names makes it less attractive than the predicate view of names. Thank you.